Ladies and gentlemen, a new report today found that Bill Gates is the #1 private owner of U.S. farmland, having amassed nearly 250,000 acres. What do you expect this guy's going to do with all that farmland? Is he going to install some swales, a nice permaculture food forest, some regenerative, holistic agriculture with free range? But no, this guy, we know he's investing in bug-based proteins and plant-based proteins. He's the guy who's funding a GMO super cow. He's the same guy that funds Impossible Foods, which has the mission of ending animal agriculture. This guy is killing our food production in every way imaginable. He is defiling God's creation, inverting everything that is good and true. And it must concern us that he is purchasing so much of our farmland, that he now is the #1 owner. Let's talk more about this. I'm Christian, and this is the Ice Age Farmer broadcast. And before we dig deeper, I just want to build a little bit on my report last night about the fact that countries are locking down their soybeans, even as the USDA continues to lie about ending stocks and what's going on here in the United States, as they are eating out our substance. Because this market analyst said exactly the same thing today as I said in my video. This is Ray Grabansky, and he says down here, the USDA's report yesterday bumped up 20 million bushels in imports for soybeans, just to keep our ending stocks the same. But where are we going to import these soybeans from? Because we know, as I covered last night, Argentina has stopped their exports. Brazil is out. Russia has stopped their exports. Ukraine has stopped their exports. China is the one doing all the buying. There's nowhere to go. This is the USDA is making this up to keep the whole shell game running and to make sure that China can continue to eat out our substance. So I just wanted to point out that this is not some crazy conspiracy theorist on YouTube making stuff up. This is hitting the market. Analysts and traders know what's going on right now. And that's why it's imperative that I get this out so that you know what's going on right now too. But I want to answer one of the questions I got from last night. Why is it happening? Who is doing this? What is the agenda behind this engineered food shortage? Because indeed, it is these billionaires and their technocratic agenda to implement transhumanist food supply, a total takeover of our food supply, and replacing, again, everything that's good and true with a fake synthetic food, which for one makes us weak and dumbed down, right? As Bertrand Russell says, diet, injections, and injunctions will conspire to create humans that can't even resist their government. That's what the state wants. But for another, if you can't grow your own food, you must work in their factories, you must eat, they control you. Control food, you control the people. Henry Kissinger. They have telegraphed their intentions for a long time now. And Bill Gates is just the front man with the dough to make it happen. So what is this guy, who now is the #1 owner of U.S. farmland, doing with all that farmland? Well, here's a brief look at where that land is that Bill Gates has purchased. A lot of it has been incorporated into this leading harvest organization, and it's all about creating sustainable agriculture. One of those Agenda 2030 buzzwords we know, right? We know what's behind that green mask, thanks to Rosa. April 22nd of last year, on Earth Day, the same day the Pope released his missive about a jubilee for the earth and getting rid of capitalism to give Gaia her Sabbath. They're all working together here. Leading Harvest, an agricultural sustainability venture providing the first scalable industry-wide solution to urgent issues facing us. Like what? Like climate change and biodiversity. Another set of keywords straight from Agenda 2030 and the UN. What are we doing in the name of climate change and biodiversity? I'll come back to that in a second, because who else is in on this with Bill Gates? Oh, look, it has generous support from the Walton family, the family behind Walmart, of course. So these billionaires are all in on this together. In fact, we've read before, billionaires are the ones who are funding these indoor vertical farming companies. Plenty is an indoor vertical farm. It was also funded by Jeff Bezos. Where can you find Plenty's fake food? It's grown indoors in these vertical things. Oh, well, Bezos also owns Whole Foods. So sure enough, as soon as he bought Whole Foods, within a year, you could start buying this fake grown, this indoor fake food at Whole Foods. So Bill Gates, this is the kind of stuff that these billionaires are funding. It is replacement agriculture. They even use that word, alternative agriculture. So climate change and biodiversity. Let's look more at what those things. Of course, Google is another company that's in on this. They've invented these mineral inspecting robots. Well, we don't need farmers anymore. We're replacing farming and ranching. It's dirty and antiquated and old, a barbarous relic from the past, much like gold, right? We don't need these things anymore. Not in the new normal. We'll have these robots wander around. This is their farm of the future, according to Alphabet. And so when you look at what he means, what is a sustainable agriculture? What is the number one owner of farmland in the U.S., Bill Gates, going to do with it? In the name of biodiversity? Well, we've already seen Boris Johnson build upon the UN's recommendation that we start rewilding our farms, meaning we stop farming, stop growing food. We don't need that stuff anyway, right? We're moving towards the fake food, the transhumanist food. University of Sheffield study finds sheep farmers could profit by shifting to forest, according to research. In other words, get rid of the sheep, we'll pay you carbon offsets. I've covered this before because it's just laughable. It makes no economic sense whatsoever. There's nothing being produced, but there's money being paid. Only in a technocratic system could this actually work. We're just going to pay you to do nothing. And this is what it looks like. Again, remember, Bill Gates talks about is the investing in Impossible Foods. Here it is. Bill Gates investing in Impossible Foods, which has its mission of ending animal agriculture. Their CEO is now out there saying, let's get rid of the cows. Get rid of them. It's the same guy that said it's game over for the meat industry, and they don't even realize it yet. Now, it's not marketing for him to get up and say that. He's not just trying to get Impossible Foods stock up. That's the agenda. That's why that company exists. That's why he was installed there, to deliver on this promise to get us away from good, healthy proteins and fats and onto the synthetic, lab-grown trash that the same people are funding right now, the number one owner of U.S. farmland. What else is he going to do with that farmland? He's going to stop using it. They're going to shut down the farms. In the name of sustainability and climate change and biodiversity, we have to stop farming. We've seen that. Boris Johnson is delivering on that promise. Gates Ag 1 is another venture that has been highly funded lately. This is a separate venture from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The whole point is to, quote, bring scientific breakthroughs to small farmers whose yields are threatened by climate change. Again, invoking the woke agenda here. It will work with the Gates Foundation's agricultural development team and other partners needed to accelerate the development of innovations. See if you can watch the pattern in the words here. The goal, quote, to empower small farms with affordable, high-quality tools, technologies like GMO seeds and genetically engineered cows and robots from Google's Mineral and Bill Gates' AI, and the resources they need to lift themselves out of poverty. We need to accelerate access to these products and services. We didn't think the research was happening fast enough. It wasn't flowing down in a time frame that can reach them. In short, again, they are hoping to artificially accelerate the process of introducing new technologies to farmers through investment, private-public partnerships, and so forth. Accelerate. We must take over food faster, right? We know that the grand solar minimum is driving the timetable for these things, and evidently they weren't meeting their milestones fast enough. So they said, okay, we gotta give another $1 billion to Ag 1 to make sure we go in and we rip out the heirloom genetics and the indigenous practices from these other parts of the world and install our GMO seeds and our ridiculous practices. Here's another thing he's funding. How a Bill Gates-backed startup plans to save farming with artificial intelligence. Now the goal, and stepping back, the goal of Ag 1 is to take control over the genetic diversity on this planet. They're going around, you can read a lot from Vandana Shiva. She writes about this and done some great studies. They're going around taking seed samples from all these indigenous farmers around the world and scanning them in and looking at the different genes, the different genomes of all these crops, and then selectively editing them, patenting them, and then selling them off once they own these robust, incredible genetics that have been passed down from farmer to farmer over generations of humanity. That's what the artificial intelligence that Bill Gates is doing is up to. It's looking at the genetic diversity on this planet and rewriting it. Like I said, it is defiling God's creation. He's just an agent of this agenda here. Now, there's an organization called AGRA that did this report, The Man Behind the Curtain. And it looked at the participants in the UN Food Systems Summit, which is coming up here shortly. In fact, all of these, the Barilla Reset the Table from Farm to Fork conference was all about feeding ideas and intelligence into the UN Food Systems Summit. Much like the World Economic Forum is about to host their Great Reset conference, so too is the UN about to host this UN Foods Systems Summit, which will envision this next decade up to 2030 of how the roadmap of how they are going to replace everything that is good about farming and ranching with the technocrats' own systems. The AgriWatch organization, in their research into the UN Food Systems Summit, found, you can read here, quote, AgriWatch analyzed the signatories, finding of the 12 total individuals involved in the UN Food Systems Summit, 11 of them had past or even current connections to the Gates Foundations. In some instances, the organizations were directly funded by the Gates Foundation, and in others, Gates funded specific programs that had major roles. So his fingers aren't just in it. Almost every single one of the participants is working for Bill Gates. He's the author of the UN Food Systems Summit. So when we hear the UN saying, well, it looks like we're going to have to eat bugs going forward. Oh, we're going to have to start rewilding up to 50%, right? Get the people off of it, get the farms off of it, get the animals off of it, restore biodiversity, stop the pandemics because of the zoonotic threat. All of this narrative is all about the same. They're shutting down food production, and actually more broadly, they're shutting down all economic activity, all human activity, shoving us into the smart cities. It's pretty appalling. But I really appreciate AgriWatch's investigations here and finding that he's so thoroughly involved with the UN Food Systems Summit. He's clearly driving, or his money and the people, the forces behind him are clearly driving this complete rewrite of the food systems. Much like the Rockefeller Reset the Table agenda said, it turns out that nutrition is important to human health, and now that we've got these pandemics, we had to implement medical martial law. But it turns out that nutrition is important, so since we have a health crisis, we're also going to have to take over all of your food productions and your nutritional needs. They've married these two things. Finally, after years of ignoring nutrition completely in terms of human health, now they have acknowledged the role there so that they can make the case that they must take over food as well. That's what's going on here. So again, when we see the number one owner of U.S. farmland is that same guy, what do you think about that, ladies and gentlemen? Does that concern you? My hope is that it motivates you to get outside and plant some seeds and raise some animals. That's what we all need to be doing right now. These people must be stopped. And it's not by going outside with a picket, right, and saying, down with Bill Gates. No, it's planting your own food and making sure that we pass laws at the local level, the county level, the state level, if you can pull it off, that protect our ability to grow our own food, to raise our own animals. It's enshrining in as many places as possible our fundamental human right to grow food. Not to get food, not to have food for free. That's not a human right. They'd like you to believe that. In fact, the UN even tweets, the right to eat is a fundamental human right. But what that means, if you think about it, is that it's a fundamental human right to have a super state somewhere, a United Nations, some government that has A, perfect awareness of all resources around the world, and then more concerningly, B, the power and the monopoly of force to strip from you your food to give it to someone else who deserves it more. It means what the UN says, that the right to eat is a human right. What that means is that we all have the human right to be slaves. That's wrong. But what we do have the right to is to grow our own food. And if we all do that, then we can actually all have food every day. Like I said, Vandana Shiva has done some fantastic work linking Gates to all of what's going on right now, to the takeover of food. In her words, he's continuing the work of Monsanto. I would say actually he's continuing the work of the Rockefeller Foundation and their green revolution. But she's fantastic. I'm looking forward to sharing the stage with Vandana Shiva at the Greater Reset Conference here in about a week. It's totally free. It's available online. You can find it at thegreaterreset.org. And I'll talk more about that. My talk at this conference is about the greater food transformation and how we build a new food system to free ourselves from these technocrats and the bug burgers they'd like us to be eating. Because I reject the future of food that they envision for us. Their great food transformation is not acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, what ideas do you have for the greater food transformation? What laws are being passed, or what organizations are doing cool things near you that we should be talking about? I'd love to hear about them so I can spread the word, and we should be making sure that everyone everywhere knows about things they can be doing to ensure local food production, to facilitate counter-economic activity, to build a better regenerative human-focused food system, not one that is designed to starve us out and enslave us. So let me know what your ideas are on that and what you've seen in your area that everyone else should be doing too. Let's spread the word. And thanks for, send me a note, iceagefarmer@protonmail.com. I'd genuinely love to hear from you. All right, thanks for watching this, ladies and gentlemen. You can find this report and all my reports on iceagefarmer.com. If you value this broadcast and the information I'm bringing, you can help me keep it running. There's a few ways of doing that at iceagefarmer.com/support, and I very genuinely appreciate your help. But mostly right now, it's about growing food and raising animals and building a better future, one that we want our children to inherit. So let's get to it. Be well, folks.